How's it going, everybody? I'm Drifty from Driftwood Gaming, and welcome back to the Let's Make a Game for 2018, where we use the RPG Maker MV engine to make a sim RPG that we're calling Natural Explorers. Over the last day, we've had some good positive comments. Let's take a look at some of them. Blue Rabbit says we should implement seasons that change every 10 to 20 minutes. We should have our insult skill generate random text, something like what we see here. A few new people have chimed in. Erwin Tingson says we should add a population counting system in order to allow building upgrades, etc. Chibi Kitsune has said we should add an orphanage where the players can adopt kids once they get married. This is a great idea, and it's used in several other games like the Guild 2 Renaissance, so we'll probably be doing something like that. JCH Nenaya says allow enemy NPC mayors to compete with. I think other people have mentioned that as well. Give multiple methods to defeat opponents via assassination, economic power, or diplomacy. Guy embellished a little bit on the comment, but the gist of the comment was to give the player some competition by letting NPCs compete with your town and another part of the map, allow you to take over their town with different methods. So great ideas there. Crying RN says a traveling merchant should sell rare items after a certain amount of time has passed or after a quest has been completed. And I'm going to scroll my way up to the top. You can pause to see any various changes that I've added via comments that have been made in the past episode. So if you'd like to make any comments, suggestions for the next episode and the future of this game, please do so in the comments below. Thank you so much for that. Let's talk about some of the things that we've done over the last day. I've added a new enemy called the Vile Worm. We're still using animated SV enemies, so I'll have to jump in the game to show it to you, which I will. We're scaling the sprite up to 200%. It kind of gives it a pixelated look that I like with these sprites. I'm using the same scheme for the enemies, basing their stats with the generalization and a factor of their level. So this will be our typical level 2 enemies. They will go up in stats similar to the player, but the experience will stay the same since I'm basing the character's growth off of a number of kills regardless of the level of those creatures. The only difference are the items that those creatures drop, the gold that they drop, the skills they use, difficulty of the enemies. Higher valued items will drop from stronger enemies. The new skills that we've created for the Vile Worm are Sting, Entangle, and Vile Projectile. Let's look at those skills. Very similar to our first enemy where they had a TP generating move, a TP consuming move, and a MP, which has been renamed to AP consuming move. The level 2 variant works on the same process, works the same way. We have Sting, which is going to be our TP generating move. Entangle is our TP consuming move, and Vile Projectile is our MP consuming move. I've adjusted the max MP of the first enemy. They can only use their MP based move a single time. Therefore, I can make it a little bit stronger and not worry about the player just getting bad RNG and spammed with the worst move over and over and over. For the enemies, I want the combat system to be kind of quick and fast, so the enemies should only live long enough to use their move a single time, and maybe not even live long enough to use their best move. They'll have one move that is TP generation, which will probably be the most commonly used move, and then another move that when they have enough TP, they will have the same chance of a basic attack for the TP costing move, and then slightly less chance, but they can only do it one time in battle, their stronger MP consumption move. The Vile Worm works with that same idea in mind. They have Sting, which generates TP, Entangle, which costs 40 TP, and Vile Projectile, which will cost 20 MP. They only have 20 MP, so they can only use this a single time. I've added a couple of drop items, the Salvaged Cloth and the Insect Stinger. The first level 1 enemy can drop the Salvaged Cloth with a 50% chance, 1 out of 2. And I've made the items cost 100 times their level. They have a 50% chance to drop the basic item. I think this is a good flat rate. You don't want to make everything 100% because there's some sort of power of the Skinner box that you can incorporate in your game if you don't make things guaranteed. It can make the game grindy if the player really needs that item, but you can set up the game to where the player won't really need that item, but if they have some sort of completionist mentality, then that will add playtime to your game via the Skinner box without requiring the player to do it to progress. So it's up to you how you want to set up your enemies. I've decided to give them the 50% chance to drop the item and have the item cost 100 times instead of a guaranteed drop that costs 50. You can calculate what works best in your game. So these items can be sold for coins, but I also plan to use these items in some sort of crafting system. Maybe the player will have a crafting building that will require items you can only get from the battle system, so thereby incorporating the sim aspect with the RPG aspect of the game so that they kind of go hand in hand. You need this to do that. You'll still be able to make a lot of progress without doing the RPG element of the game, but maybe you won't be able to take over your opponents with military force. You'll have to use economic force, and maybe if you did use the battle system, gain some military power, you can still enhance your economic economic force by using drop-only items inside your crafting stations to get a little bit of boost of income. So these are regular items, not consumable, no scope, occasion of never. They're going to be items that you can sell or later be used in crafting systems. Let's take a look at the new skills. Sting is a basic formula, attack times 3 minus the opponent's defense. It's a physical attack. It just generates TP. And I've added action sequencing to the 3 skills, actually only 2 of them, because Faint Echoes is a ranged, so I didn't think it needed to be. The same thing with the projectile. The ranged attacks, I'm not putting sequencing because it just makes sense that they'll do something from where they're standing and I don't need to sequence that. I may add something later. We'll see. But Claw is going to have the same action sequence as the basic attack with one exception. At the bottom where we would normally have attack animation, I'm using action animation on the target so that it calls on the actual animation, and just so that we can use the custom animations that we created. When you do that with action animation. Claw now has the jump across the screen and then it'll scratch them. Unravel will jump across the screen and the little whirlwind will play. So does Sting and Entangle, the 2 new ones that you haven't seen yet. As I mentioned at the end of the last episode, in the Battle Engine core, under the animation section, I've created 2 new animations, also as a custom sound effect for each of them, for the physical animation and the magical animation. I'll show those to you. I wanted them to be quick, so I made them 10 frames. This one's 11 frames. I also created a custom sound effect for them, so this is what they look like. Anytime we use a physical ability, it will use that. Anytime we use anything that's classified as a magical attack by the game, which can be toggled and set up in here. If I wanted abilities to use that, I can set up anything as an ability. We'll use the magic charge up with the plugins recharge animation. So now when we go to play a magical animation, it does this thing. And it was interesting how I made this sound effect. I put my hands together and I have my thumbs touching on where the nails go, but I have like a whistle-like effect. And I can make this whistling sound with my hands. I basically did that in Audacity, put some filters on it, and the same thing you've seen me do before. So we've got that. It's kind of weird. I don't know if I'm going to keep it, but that's how it is for right now. That's the charge for magic. The physical one I'm pretty happy with. I really like that. The sound effect for this physical charge up, I actually got a comb with these bristles. I used the back of a tube of toothpaste. It has like this rough, flat plastic edge. And I put it against the comb and I raked up close to the microphone and I put just a slew of effects on it. I reversed it, did all kinds of stuff, and ended up with this. It's really kind of crazy what you can turn a sound effect into. I'm really happy with this one and I'm gonna keep it. The magic one I'm gonna change most likely. The Sting animation, it's using stock sound effects, which I've of course just moved around and changed. I customized it. Not frame by frame, simple customization. Same thing with Entangle. I think this was a water, I don't know. I took a pattern and then changed everything up like you've seen me do several times. And this one was very similar, but I moved everything down manually on this one. So that's the Vile Projectile. Here's the Entangle. Here's the Sting. Alright, now that we've looked at those animations, let's take a look at them in-game. I'm starting the player at level 2 since we're fighting a level 1 and level 2 enemy. I'm not using a level plugin, I'm just kind of manually setting it up that way. I'm going to guard a few rounds. While guarding, fighting a level 1 thing at level 2, we're not going to take too much damage, but we'll get to see the animation effects and sound effects. I want the players to be able to mop enemies up that are below their level. An enemy that's a lower level than the player dies in one hit is kind of what I'm going for. It won't always die in one hit, but it will most of the time at level 2. At level 3, it will most certainly die in one hit unless you have some sort of debuff on you or something. I'm gonna let the enemy build some TP and show you his moves. You can see that they're going across the screen now for the moves that are not ranged attacks. He'll only be able to use that move a single time because he's out of MP, which I've renamed to AP. So he's gonna use Claw, that's building up 15, 15, and he needs 50 to do his other move. I'm gonna actually turn that to 40. He should be able to do the other move now. Unravel. I've also put the TP cost on Radiant Beam back in since we've got it debugged and it works the way it's supposed to work. So it's going to cost 50 TP for the player to use. I reduced the damage on it a little bit. It hits 5 times. It's strong enough. And we'll guard and let this vile beast. I'm really happy with the way that one turned out. The Sting, the sound effects, the action sequence, how it comes up to you and it stings. He missed, so I don't know if he generated TP right there. He did not. Here's his Entangle. Entangle has a 60% chance to stun the player, basically. Let's use a heal. He won't be able to use it again, the Vile Spit. I don't know if he did that yet. Did he do the Vile Spit yet? Vile Projectile, yeah. Bang. He'll only be able to do that once. The Vile Projectile has a debuff, a defense debuff attached to it. So when you get hit with that, you have a defense debuff, which will take more damage from physical attacks for 5 turns, 5 rounds. I'm considering adding a plugin that'll show the player the number of rounds remaining, because I think it's good to have that information on hand. Is it going to last 1 round? Is it going to last 20 rounds? It's good to know that sort of thing. I'm also planning on changing the colors for the HP, AP, and TP. Let's finish this creature off. Nice. See, that time it didn't finish him in 1 hit, which is what I'm going for. This will incentivize the player to get that little bit stronger. That 1 house upgrade that gives you 5 or 10 to your strength will be enough to never not kill them in 1 hit. Will incentivize. Most of the time they're gonna 1-hit kill. That would have 1-hit kill. I think the balancing is better done when you manually do it, besides using an enemy levels plugin. The Anfly's enemy levels plugin is fantastic, and I've used it several times in other games, but it can get tricky later on in the game if you don't have the growth rates correct. Handcrafting all your enemies and going with some sort of basic stat control using the plugin class-based param and base param control really gives you more balancing options. I plan to add a few more plugins. You can see the ones I have now. The list is quickly filling up. Now that I got you up to speed with what I've been doing on the project, I want to jump into something different. I want to add another crafting station. We need a way to turn ore, coal, and coins into iron ingots. That way we can go to the next thing of turning the iron ingots and wooden logs into pickaxes, completing the crafting circle so the player doesn't have to buy pickaxes once they run out. To get to the next part, we're going to need some custom art, and I'm going to be using Panda Maru's blacksmith. Inside my IMG Maybe Used folder, I've downloaded some Panda Maru artwork. This Panda Maru artwork is all together on 1 page, which can be used as a sprite sheet in itself, or we can use it as doodads. I'm going to take these 3 images, I'm going to copy them, I'm going to put them in the characters. I'm going to go back to the Maybe Used and take the face of the blacksmith. You can see various pieces of art that I've added and put this in character faces, IMG faces. We could add these as doodads or as events in town. I'm going to have this guy randomly walking around town. It's going to be blacksmith. Blacksmith. I don't remember the numbers, I'm just guessing. This is going to tell the player that for 1,000 coins, the blacksmith will set up his basic forge to smelt coal and ore into iron ingots. But I need to check my numbers. 2, 3, 15, is that correct? 2, 3, and 13 for iron ingots. Okay, let's update that. We'll prompt the player with some choice. We'll say pay him 1,000 coins or not right now. If the player decides to pay 1,000 coins, we need to see if the player has 1,000 coins. So we'll do a conditional branch checking to see if the player has equal to or greater than 1,000 with an else handler. If they do have it, we're going to decrease 1,000 and turn on a self switch. Actually, we can handle this with a regular switch, and we'll say basic forge purchase. We'll have this be an upgradable event. It starts off with a basic forge, and then it becomes an advanced forge to create like weapons and or armors. But for now, it's just going to create ingots to make pickaxes to get more resources and start the loop, the core game loop. We can add a new event page to this and say if switch basic forge purchased is on, then this is going to do nothing. It's going to basically disappear at this point. But that gives us control. We can put this guy anywhere. We can give him random movement. He already has random movement. He's going to walk around just over here. We'll start him over here. And then we can set up an event where he will appear behind an anvil using the other piece of art once he's been paid and set it up. Set a condition for this event to be basic forge purchase. I'll call this basic forge. We'll give it the image, this right here, and we'll have it stepping. That way it looks like he's moving, he's animating. And we can even have a animation play on this event if we wanted to set it to a parallax. I don't know if I want to do that. Actually, what I'll do is have an event above him where if the basic forge purchase is on, this is going to be forge animation event. So it'll be a parallel. This is just going to have a wait timer, a show animation. So we'll create a wait of, let's say, 3 seconds, a show animation. We can have it on this event or on the basic forge event. We don't want wait for completion because that could be a problem. So we will have a new animation that we'll create. Every 3 seconds it'll play that animation on this event. We can also set up some decorative events that checks the same switch. You can see his forge has been set up. This can be on the left side of him, and on the right side we can do the same thing. We could do all of this with doodads as well, but if it's already set up in a character sheet, we don't actually need doodads for it. So all of these events should not be here until the switch is turned on. Once you pay this guy, he'll basically disappear, but he'll go set up his event. If we wanted to make it more smooth transition, which we might move all of this later on, we can have him stationary and then do a move event after you pay him. I kind of like him walking around. We'll sequence a move event later on, but for now he's just going to disappear and reappear somewhere else. Let the player know where he went after he disappears. We'll actually control the switch after the show text, so he doesn't disappear first. Otherwise, we're gonna say you don't have enough gold, which I've done this event several times, so I'm just gonna copy paste this from a different event. Else, you don't have enough gold. Okay. Now, here's the event where the blacksmith is set up. Once the player comes here, we'll let the player know what they need to consume in order to create an iron ingot. 3 ores, a single coal on the hand, 50 coins, D10, smelt, and iron ingot. Should I get started? And we can check for each item here, or let the player have it automated. Let's just give some options here. Should I get started? Yes, start smelting. Iron ingots, or not right now. If they say yes, we need to check to see if they have the right items. For this, we can start with the simple, do they have the gold? With that, and then we'll do an else branch. And if they don't, we say they don't have enough. If they do have the gold, we can check without controlling a variable just to see if they have the item. Do they have a single coal? If they do, we'll show them. Otherwise, we'll tell them that they don't have enough. Oh, we don't need to show the gold at that point. Since we're showing the gold window, map gold window, we don't really need to have that. You currently have everywhere, but I'm just leaving it for now in case I take the map gold window out. Inside, if the party has the coal, we'll have to control one variable. And as I said in a previous episode, you don't need a custom variable to count every item. You can use one as an item counter. I'm a little neurotic, and I create variables for each different item. So this is not a coal counter, this is an ore counter. We're going to set to the game data the number of ores the player has, and then we'll see, keep running a conditional branch. If that variable is greater than or equal to 3 with an else branch, then the party can get started. This will turn on the timer. We don't actually need to deduct the items here because this is going to continue. This process will keep going. Once we set up the timer, we're going to run it with common events. We'll have this turn on a switch. We'll show an animation on this event. We'll eventually customize all of the animations that we're repeating. This install the mine one over and over. We'll have these customized later date. And like I said, let's turn on that switch. This is going to be a basic forge timer. Now we've turned this switch on. We also need to turn on a self switch and copy this page, paste it. We're going to be deleting most of it actually. I just wanted to keep the image the way it was. He'll show the options. Did I get started? Here he'll say, should we stop the operation? Should we stop the operation? Yes. Stop. Continue. No. Continue. Stop. And we're going to default to 2 on this one. If you say stop smelting, we're going to turn off the switch that controls the timer, which is basic forge timer 1. We're also going to turn off the self switch, putting us back on the first page. Continue smelting, nothing will happen. This lets the player control if they want to turn off this process once it gets going. In the next episode, we're going to set up the common event that runs as a parallel process for when this switch is turned on. When the basic forge timer turns on, run through this process. It's going to look very similar to the mine timer, But instead of providing multiple things and only requiring one thing, it'll be the opposite. It's going to require multiple things but only provide one thing. So I'll have that set up, or we'll go through the process of making it in the next episode, but I'm out of time for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you do enjoy this series, please remember to give it a thumbs up, smash the like button, like the smash button. Please sub to the channel if you're not already. I love all of you, my Patreon supporters. If you would like to support what we do here on the Driftwood Gaming channel, please consider backing me on patreon.com/driftwoodgaming. That is monumental to the progress we make on this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to come hang out, we have a Discord channel. If you would like to come hang out and chat with us, well, the link will be in the description below. Any other appropriate links will also be down there. Remember to stay awesome, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.